how can candidates effectively communicate their thought processes and findings during a case interview?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll take it as like two parts. So the first part, I'll talk about the thought process, and the second part, the finding. So the thought process, we want to think everything that's going on in the room with a case interview is to see if you're going to do the job well when they hire you. And so the way that consultants generally think is in a structured way. So that's at like a very baseline level. Structure is generally better than not structuring, and depth is generally better than being very much on the surface. So when you're communicating your thought process, typically you want to be very organized, and you want to be so that the interviewer basically has to exert like no effort to understand it. That's how I talk about it with my clients. Because if you vomit at me like a whole bunch of stuff that's not structured, I have to work really hard to be like, what's most important? What happens first? Whereas if you can give it to me in a way that's structured, for instance, like I'm going to these ideas on a continuum, like from the most important to the least important, or the most risk to the least risk, or on a 2x2, like most risk and highest cost, and then you just kind of place them, makes my life super easy. So that's what you want to be doing on the thought process. So if you're communicating that, make my life easy. With findings, the most important thing with findings is that once you have the finding, you're only halfway there, actually. The most important part is relating that finding back to the key question of the case. So often people will get an answer, and then they'll just kind of sit there with that answer and not do anything with it. But the whole point of getting a finding or an insight is to move the case forward and to update what your sort of perspective is on the key case question. So there's always a key case question. There's always an objective. Like the goal is to figure out if someone should launch a business. If your finding is that the market's super small, it's kind of like a red light, right? So it's either a red light or a green light. But if it's small market, it means you're probably less likely to enter the market now that you know that. So it's really only a finding or insight once it has a relevance to the key question that you're answering.
Alberto, you had anything to add here?
Yeah, just an additional idea to add on what Jeremy just shared here. Anchor not only everything to the case question, but also to the structure, okay? I like to see the structure like the map to navigate the whole case, and the structure is by defaulting to the case question. So use the structure not only at the beginning to kind of break down the problem into its components, but anchor everything to that map, to keep progressing through the map until you find the treasure, which is the answer to the question.